specifically, you said something to me not too long ago I thought was profound. And I just want to say as well, like part of what I'm doing in Kung Fu music lessons and why I'm doing this interview is to encourage artists to write authentically. And what I call a musical monk in the program is there's like the highest levels. You have to start learning about vibration, what you're talking, realize how you're affecting your listeners and the rest of the world, and realize that when you have a microphone,
Yes.
you have more power than a politician. You have more power than anyone. People with the mic have power. We have the mass, so that is programming. We're programming an audience by speaking to them, and that goes into their subconscious, and that's what life is. That's just,
Yeah.
understand. So we have the power to program just like any other major outlet, but how are we doing that? So you said one time to me recently, you said, we talked about this topics, and you said, I've been preparing myself for public humiliation. And I thought
Mm,
the way you said it with, I think those words, if I remember correctly,
I
and I
did.
was like, wow, that's profound. So I just want to ask you right now, because right now we're in a pretty controversial time in the world. So how are you preparing yourself for public humiliation? What do you mean by that? And included in that, what are the topics that you've currently been writing about?
Mm, cool. Yeah, so humiliation to me is a positive word. It is just realizing really to yourself where your being needs, I guess, like culturing or fostering, right? And it can be public, it can be private. But people think of humiliation as maybe somebody like being mean to you. But to me, that's not really all of its definition. So it's like there's what's humiliate or humble, they come from the same root. And it's like to be humble is to just realize that other people are going to have a reaction to your being because we're all mirrors for each other. And when you are that mirror for someone and you are showing them something that they maybe that necessarily don't want to see, then that's a humiliating process. Just like, I like the first time that I realized that I was fat. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was like 100 pounds ago, when I was heavier. You know what I'm saying? And it was like real. It's a process because like the mirrors don't lie. You know what I mean? And it's just like understanding that like when you're in a situation to which you're being humiliated, it's an opportunity to grow. If nothing else, in patience and love and understanding. And those are the toughest lessons to learn. How do you learn? How do you love somebody when they're treating you like crap? You know what I'm saying? And the only way you can learn that is when you're being humiliated. And it's like at the end of the day, these great teachers like Martin Luther King or Gandhi or Jesus, about non-violence, about standing on the principle, and even if others hang you on a cross and kill you, like you don't fight back. You know what I'm saying?
It's forgiveness,
Because
unconditional love.
that unconditional love, and it's a process, because we all have egos, we all get angry, we all make mistakes, we're all human. I'm not any one of those people that I named. You know what I'm saying? And I've certainly made mistakes and certainly have had to grow a lot in my understanding of emotions and temperament and actions and consequences and tough lessons like that. So when I said to you that I'm preparing to be humiliated, I guess it's like, yeah, how do you do that? Well, there's a couple ways, and one is you say things that go against what others believe when you're amongst them, or you challenge you challenge what the narrative of the environment is by questioning it, and remembering that you never want to be the person who's giving advice or wisdom, or you don't want to be like the guru. Like gurus aren't the ones who go around telling people what to do. Gurus are the ones who people go around asking questions, and then what do they tell you? A question. They ask you a question. You know what I'm saying? Like gurus are question masters. So it's like being that person in the room willing to ask a difficult question. That's a way to prepare yourself to be humiliated, because with the situations that we're in today, with the predicaments of division that people have aligned themselves with, in a multitude of ideals, it should be healthy and promoted as constructive to have conversations with people that you don't agree with through asking questions, because how can we understand people who think differently? Think what they think, you know? And just because they think what they think doesn't mean it changes what I think, but maybe it does, because plenty of times in my life I thought I had it figured out and I told somebody the way it was, and then they said, huh, did you ever think about this? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever hear a story about this? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's always a question. All of the greatest teachers I've ever had have never told me how the world works. They've only asked me questions about the inadequacies of the statements that I have blatantly made, you know? So I have been learning to, I guess, in the last few years, be more observant and think about how would somebody like Socrates approach this, And a guy like Socrates was the master of being able to take all kinds of heat, all kinds of criticism, once he got to the place where people really knew about him and who he was, everybody in the government and the politicians and all that stuff, they hated him. They obviously wanted him dead. They killed him, and why? Because he was asking too many questions, but it got the people to understand, because when you ask questions, it causes curiosity. And then when you have to seek the answer, then you go through a process of understanding. And until you've gone through that process of understanding, there's always going to be a gap, which is called cognitive dissonance. And that's really what we have in our worlds. We have a lot of cognitive dissonance. We have people who think they're standing for one thing, but they're actually representing the exact opposite thing, and it's the nature of a duality. It's like the wolf in sheep's clothing, it's the choice. It's always out in the open. Like, you can tell it's a wolf in sheep's clothing if you got good eyesight, you know what I'm saying? And if you don't, where the glasses store is, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, I just feel like the process of putting yourself out there, like I always say this is, if you want to be a performer, if you want to be a leader of any type, then you have to grow to a place of being comfortable, being uncomfortable all the time. Like, that's it. Like, if you're not in a place where you're willing to be uncomfortable all the time, then you're not cut out to be the leader. You're not cut out to be the person who's like trying to steer the boat. You know what I'm saying? Because you should always be questioning what's happening, and if you're in alignment with the best directive, and I always say that the best teachers are the best students, and the best students are the best teachers, and it's like the nature of humiliation, like, this is kind of silly, but I'll share it with you, is I put myself through this process when I decided I was a rapper, and I told myself that I was gonna go out in public. So I would write these songs, right? I would just dump, like, through Corona signs, I was just like dumping words into mass, like, it just writing. I just couldn't stop. And every day I'd make like 2 or 3 beats. And then I try to be like, yo, I come up with an idea, like, like, one was inspired, but there was a book that was just sitting on my, it's like you make a beat, then you like look, and I'd see like a book, and the book said like, history is wrong. I'm like, that's kind of a dope name. History is wrong. And then, move on to something else. Then later I'd be like, yo, if I wrote a song called History is Wrong, like, what would I say? You know what I'm saying? And then dump a bunch of ideas down, then you go through an editing process, go through a trial and error process, or, I wrote a song called Rainy Day Love Vaccination. I conceptualized, a 10-song album, a few albums really, where I'm just like more vocally present. And so to get over this anxiety of like, can I do this? Or like, are people going to take me seriously? Like, are people going to hear what I'm saying? Like, you know, I've got a lot of experience being on stage with a mic in my hand and talking and, you know, playing music. But, you know, I've listened to rap my whole life. Hip hop is one of my favorite genres. You know, I got a collection huge of favorite music, favorite artists that have influenced what I do. But then like the Renaissance gave me this space to just really step fully into that as it was like appropriate. And I was doing my essential business, you know. I was in a space where I would just, you know, practice the songs, you know, and even before the pandemic, I would do this, like where I would go out and I would just do a concert in the grocery store aisle, you know what I'm saying? Or while I was standing in line somewhere and I would just do the performance right there. You know what I mean? Like I would just sing like I was trying to sing right there. And it was humiliating, you know what I'm saying? Because it was awkward because people would look at me like, what is this weirdo doing? Like, why, who is this guy? Like, who does he think he is? And then, you know, you get practice of getting in your head and you're like, are these people judging me? What do they think about me? Are they digging it? Do they like it? Like, I don't care about that stuff anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've literally stood in aisle 9 at Whole Foods and just belted it at the top of my lungs. You know what I'm saying? Because it's what it takes to get over the anxiety or the fear of like doing it. So that way, if I'm the same guy who's at Whole Foods or the same guy who's pushing the cart through, you know, the parking lot is the same guy who's on stage, you know what I'm saying, performing. There's no difference. Like what you see is what you get 24/7. And so that was a huge process of humiliation, and I still do it. And you know, especially with some of the subjects and some of the lyricism in my songs, being inquisitive, being objective in narrating my perspective or a perspective that I have acquired through observation of others or as I've observed the collective, you know, and sharing that information in real time, right as it was happening, right as I was writing it, like, yeah, it was tense, man, because some of the stuff that I'm writing about, it is about the modern times that we're experiencing with issues, you know, like the COVID virus, like uh, racism, like sexism, like, you know, killing in mass and genocide and terrorism and all these horrible things that are perpetuated with the economy, the ecology, corruption in sports, corruption in all kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, who am I to say this stuff? Who am I to question? Well, I'm just a guy. I'm nobody. You know what I'm saying? But I do know that the questions I have are from a place of love, and that at the end of the day, not everything. Okay, I love this. Let me say it like this. In V for Vendetta, my favorite part of that movie. This isn't a spoiler, but everyone should watch that movie. But my favorite part of that movie is when V is talking to Evie, and he says, artists use lies to tell the truth. And it really, that has stuck with me as I've grown in my artistic voice, and knowing that like the idea of an allegory or the idea of fiction, you know, a fantasy, you know, you have poetic license, and so many messages are perpetuated through the rap and the hip hop art form that are highly questionable. That it's like, really, you know, in the world that we allegedly live in, we're supposed to have freedom of speech. So anyone who puts what they think in a song gets poetic license. You know what I'm saying? And it's like there's the me, the actual me, the Ryan Marquez me. Then there's me as the artist me, the Ryan Marquez me. And it's like it's not for me to interpret or it's not for me to overanalyze or overshare about what my art is about. My art speaks for itself, and it's up to the individual perspective of the observer to to interpret that or to share in that conversation however they best connect, you know. And I don't want to necessarily get into the like, what did you mean why when you said that? And it's like, well, write it down, read it a bunch of times, see what you think I meant, and then maybe have a conversation about it. Start a book club. You know what I'm saying? Blog about it online. See if you can get the newspaper to make a report about it. You know what I'm saying? Find the answer to that. Go. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not going to tell you. It's for you to decide. You know what I'm saying? And in the world that we live in, where people are burning books and pulling articles left and right from digital space, you know what I'm saying? It's like we're on the ground here as musicians. We have the ability to narrate, to give account, and at the end of the day, that's our job. Our job is to be a reflection of the times and the worlds and the lessons and the love that we experience while we're here, and reflect that back at the community. And I think the artists who have done that the most clearly in our history, you know, people like Stevie Wonder or Lauryn Hill or Common, you know, Maya Angelou, like people who really like Burt Bacharach, people who really like, you just like feel the energy from their music like immediately, and you know that it's love, you know, like a Quincy Jones. And so it's just like really, I don't know, like you know, Jared, it's like when you study with musicians or you study with artists in general, they got a different eye, like a different shape, a different scope, a different way of looking at things. And when you spent your life in a environment where those people were your main mentors from age 3, 4, 5 years old, and then you've just not, you know, you've sought all these masters of many types of art, and whether it be through, you know, hey, one time I got to talk to Chick Corea for like 1 second to like my piano teacher in Kansas City, who was a local hero, or what Billy Akins was like a hero here in St. Louis, like actually getting to spend quality time and conversation and hang and learn and soak for years. Like it's all shapes us who we are. And if we had all kind of had a more collective experience, I think where everyone was taught to see the world as themselves as an artist, you know, and then whether it be like at a professional level or whether it be like at a, like, this brings me joy and it's fun to do and it's not scrolling on my phone, you know. So I just yeah, I guess like I'm just putting myself in a spot where I just, it's like I just want people to know, like, it's like I'm the same me no matter where I am. And if it offends somebody or if it puts somebody off in a way that makes them like think that I'm got something against them, then I would only invite them to see what it is that causes them to have an emotional reaction about me, because the chances are good this is something I only know through learning of resenting or disliking others, is that typically the things that bother you that other people say or that other people do or that other people look like or they represent, those are usually insecurities or things about yourself or areas that are malnourished in your own being that need serious addressing. And those triggers, those emotions, those are signs and indications of areas to explore and expand. And so, you know, when somebody rubs you the wrong way, look at it as an opportunity to lean into the lesson of what it says about you, not about what it says about the other person, because they're just a reflection. And if you see something in the mirror that you don't like, it's not them, it's you.
Absolutely. I just want to say once I was in this TV show Big Brother in Bulgaria. It was VIP Brother with these celebrities. And I just got back right before I went there. I was just in these seminars where we talked about things like this. And I went out. When you leave, you have to go on the morning show and be on a TV interview with the biggest morning show in the country. And the first thing they do is like ask you who, like manipulating people, try to push their buttons. They're like asking you, oh,
Oh, yeah.
who's your favorite people, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, this dude and this dude. Then they showed me a video of one of those guys speaking negatively about me. And he's like, and they were like, what do you think about that? And I didn't know that he said that stuff to me. But I said exactly what you said. I said, well, I don't mind that at all because he's just, really just talking about ourselves whenever we see something in someone else. So I know that
Yeah,
I know it's not even about me. And that's exactly the
right.
answer. And I got to say that on national television with the people. I don't know, some of them hopefully understood that. It's a long lesson that you might have to spend a lot of time with to fully get it, but you laid it
Oh
out.
yeah, like some people a lifetime. Yeah. Oh, we're all growing in that. That's cool, man. I didn't know that you did that, man. That's super hip.
Yeah, we were on VIP, brother, and it was
That's like,
only yeah, it was for a goal. It was only for a goal, but it did some good things for us, and I got to be on TV a lot, a lot, a lot, and but it's like, what am I doing there? Like they kicked me out quickly because I feel maybe I was being too good of a person. They wanted me to be a bad
yeah,
person
a
and put
hundred,
me in front.
bro. They kick the best people out of life that are the best people. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh Jesus, he's 33. Let's get his ass out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Dude,
you know
I
what I'm
was
saying?
just trying to show forgiveness and whatever and acceptance immediately and not care and not get mad when people are mad at me. And it's easy. And but it wasn't enough drama for the TV.
Totally, man.
But either way,
Yeah, yeah. I can see that.
but how you said it was absolutely beautiful and perfect, and it's something we all need to spend time with. Victor Wooten says a quest in every question. You know,
Mm,
you explain
yeah.
that whole process you go through in asking a question, and I thought that was really cool. And I like to use the Socratic method when teaching sometimes,
Yes.
which means because the word education, the root means to draw out from within. And that
Yeah.
means Socrates would just ask his students questions. But here's the best part. So, like, everybody says their answer. Nobody gets to say, no, I don't think that. No one gets to dispute what anyone thinks. And everybody's answer gets written down. So if I ask 30 people about one topic, everything everybody says, boom, 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 we write them all down. Everything that is reality. All of it is true. All of it is real. It all came from the
Yes.
collective consciousness. Certain elements of what might be on the list I might not agree with or like, but there is a reality in relation to it because it came from somebody who had something, that's how they perceived it. So the collection of the total perception is the collection of truth. And we have to be open to that, not only this one truth that I have, because that's just ego. I can't even see the other people, but really we are. It's like the fish can't understand the water. We are all together in the collection of consciousness. So I love
A
the
hundred.
Socratic method. I love the question, and
Yes. In any environment, if you're not allowed to ask a question, obviously with respect to the appropriate, set and setting, not being disrespectful. But if you're not allowed to ask a question, then that's not an environment where growth or education or, be very careful in places where you're not allowed to ask questions.
that's some good advice right there. The only thing I'll say about that I've learned is, for example, with students, if a student is skeptical and resistant, they will often ask too many questions, but you can't, oftentimes like if you're working with a teacher, this is in one way of this element, because skepticism it eliminates the creativity and the option of open-mindedness and what's
Yes.
possible. So skepticism will immediately kill that, and it's a dramatic slowing down of the learning process. It's just like
Totally.
on the Karate Kid, it's like he's wax on, wax off. The guy keeps asking, why am I doing this? The guy doesn't tell him until he's done it for 10 hours. And he still doesn't tell him. He just finds out. It's like you won't understand or comprehend something until you do it. You can't just think about, you understand the concept, but there's theory and then there's practice. And without the practice, because I say knowledge comes from true experience. True knowledge comes from
Yeah.
experience. I might read about
Yep.
something until I actually do it a lot and have a lot of experience. Now I have knowledge, and then wisdom comes with more experience over time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we have to be open to everything, I feel, and be willing to practice and go through the process, you know, like you were saying. And it's just taking time and being present and open to it is important. So I would just say that sometimes skepticism can, with questions inside of skepticism, are coming from
Yeah.
are coming from ego, and they're not real. And
They're not real questions.
that's just resistance to hold on to ego for that ego to be right. So there is a time where it's probably a good idea to stop asking questions, listen, and just do the thing you need to do for hours,
Yes.
and then talk about it again. You know?
Totally, man. The nature of duality is that there are no absolutes. So to say one thing is anything is always the devil's advocate on the other side. But absolutely, you can use questions as a way to go around in circles and in the muck. And
To
it's all
actually
about the love.
learn, to actually not learn any answers. Just
Actually, not learning answers.
to
And
just
some people, yeah, some people totally do that where they'll just constantly play like they don't know because they're like, well, I'm just dumb. I have to know it. You're like, I'm gonna ask all these questions, you know? And it's like, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is
an
asking a question
question.
from a place of growth where you're trying to actually get to understand like the productive part of what you're looking to accomplish in asking the question. You know, obviously, if you ask a question out of ignorance, or if you ask a question out of cognitive dissonance, then hopefully the person that you're asking or the collective that you're asking is able to be patient enough to help you understand that, you know? But it's like, you know, there's no such thing as a dumb question is not true. There are definitely dumb questions, and I always say this. This is how you can gauge like your questioning. It's like you should if you're like debating someone or someone's like questioning you or you're trying to understand something or it's like you should be able to ask really one question. That's like Socrates level, right? If you can ask like one question that causes the answer to come out. You know what I'm saying? But it's like all about the right question because you could ask, you know, for example, I'll give an example. This is worth it. One time I saw Chick Corea play, and I was sitting the closest to him of everyone on the whole stage. I was literally like this far from his back, and I was watching him from behind, like kind of catty cornered. So I had like a really good seat by happenstance. And when he got off the stage, I was the first person that he saw, that he greeted, that he touched, right? And in my like in my kind of like absent-mindedness, you know, of finally meeting someone who's like a legend and hero to me, be like if you met Luke Skywalker, you know what I'm saying? Like I got to shake his hand and see him do his work from a 2 feet distance, and in that moment of just kind of like being like, oh my god, I'm a huge fan, like I love your music, blah blah blah. My question was, can I take your pic? Can I take a picture with you? You know what I'm saying? That was the question that I asked Chick Corea because I gotta ask him anything, right? So I asked him, can I take a picture with you? To which he replied, sure. When he pulled, when I pulled my camera and went to take the picture, he looked away as if he was moving forward. And I took a picture, and I have a picture of me and Chick Corea looking away from me, moving on towards the next thing, right? I watched Chick Corea go around, try to get out of the place. And the place was packed. He couldn't walk one step without somebody else coming up to him, you know? And he didn't have a bouncer or security or anything. And so every single person asked him, can I take a picture with you? Can I take a picture with you? Can I take a picture with you? And every single time he said yes. And every single time when the person went to take the picture, he was engaging the reality while they were taking the picture. Sometimes he was talking to someone, or sometimes he was like, and so one guy asked this legendary master to take 3 pictures with him because he wasn't looking. Every time he didn't look. And so it was apparent, if you were paying attention, that Chick Corea was actually giving a master class on life. And it was like, I learned that day that this man, he's been in this situation his whole, like, for like the last like 30, 40, 50 years, where like people are more obsessed with getting a picture of him than they are of actually engaging with him and having an experience. And it really was the first time that that somebody taught me this lesson. And now I've met hundreds of my heroes and famous people and people that most people would make sure they definitely get a picture. And I never ask for a picture. You know what I'm saying? Unless somebody else does, or unless it's just like an authentic connection where we're like actually sitting down, like hanging out, talking for a long time. And then it's like at the end of it, after an hour, you're like, yo, could I get a picture? You know what I'm saying? Maybe that. But in a moment where it's like, yo, there's 100 people here and I got a shot to like hang out with Robert Glasper for like a minute and a half. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about a picture because the second the picture snap, he's on to the next person, you know? So it's like, I learned from Chick Corea that it's more important to engage in the experience than it is to get the picture. And when you're that person that's Chick Corea, you don't want, like, think about how lonely of a life that is. If it's like no one really actually wants to engage with you, they just want to take a picture of you. It totally makes sense. And I don't resent the fact that I didn't ask Chick Corea of some substance, or that I didn't say something to him charismatic enough to foster a relationship that could have continued beyond that moment, because that was my one shot. You know what I'm saying? And it was a lesson that I learned, and I'll forever take with me and pass on through story to others so they don't make the same mistake.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story.